Hi, real chat. Can you hear me? I'm also not wearing makeup again, so we won't get very many people in. But I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here for you all. Hi. Hi. Hello. You can hear me and see me. Yay. Yeah, over in Burger Egg chat, which I still have going on, by the way, I asked somebody if they would rather vote for Stalin or Trump, and it was a real... They really struggled with that. They really had a hard time. Do you get mega echo? Is everybody else getting an echo? Or is it just the sewer rat? No? Okay. No echo. Okay, sorry, sewer rat. Try restarting. Try refreshing. I'm sorry. Yeah, we don't support turf shit. Yeah, that's crazy. Reactionaries. No liberation can exist without socialism. Hey, do you like the hair? I don't know. I feel kind of today. I'm going to put on makeup tomorrow no matter what for Theory Thursday. I'm going to get ready for Theory Thursday. I'm going to look good for Theory Thursday. I was just up late last night. I was up late last night. I had some emergencies last night. Oh my God. Today on Burger Egg is wild. Okay, so you guys, if you're still here, come join us over on a real stream. You can learn some things because clearly the indoctrination is strong, right? The Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein class public school education that's happening for people in the West, not hitting. Who could have guessed? Who could have guessed that having Betsy DeVos in charge of public education would do this to you all? Crazy, right? Oh my God, hi, Virgo Raid. Welcome, everybody. But it did. It made you all ding dong. It made you all super, super ding dong. Yeah, this is a result of defunding education. So come join us over on our live stream. We're going to talk about the world. And it's way better than here because I can show you evidence rather than just telling you things that you have to go look up on your own later. I can actually show you. Like, it's designed for live streaming. I can show you my screen better, etc., etc. So Twitch. So twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. If you already like watching live streaming, I think it's a better platform to watch live streamers on personally. So come join us. So it's just like here, but no underscore in my name. And we're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about current events. Today we're going to be going through some current events and talk about their historical context. And I think you'll like it. And if you like it, I know I'm 30 minutes late. I'm so sorry. And I didn't even get ready. I had an emergency. I had a friend with an emergency at like midnight last night. So, you know, some things were happening. But it's okay. Don't join. I ban you if I don't even ban people. You must have upset one of my mods. I don't know what to tell you. Kubashi makes the rules, not me. Yeah. Kubashi's quick on that. You know? You gotta please Kubashi, not me. I don't think I've ever banned somebody. Yeah. I would say, respect the mods. I don't know what to tell you. That's not a me thing. That's just, you gotta learn how to interact with people out in the world, I guess, if you want them to be around you. Hi, everybody. Hi. Everybody coming in. Better your country. I would say try to join a socialist org near you. Try to join a socialist org near you. Marxist-Leninist org. Islam, Christianity, I'm fine with religion. I have no problem with religion. A lot of, in particular, I know a lot of people who practice Muslim say it's very... very compatible with their political beliefs for communism. We have no problem with that. They don't persecute people for watching K-dramas. They actually have their own streaming service that has foreign media available on it. So come on over. Come join us. Come join us. Come join us. You know, I think he's doing American public school ding dong room. I mean, Betsy DeVos brain. This is your brain on Betsy DeVos. I want to see it. I haven't seen it. I love boosters. I want to see it. Oh my God, no, not calling a hi Larry Hillary. Okay. Why do we support billionaire workers party leader Kim? Oh my God, these people. Okay, you guys come join us over here. I don't know how to tell you this, but these net worth things aren't real. Like celebritynetworth.com says I have like a $5 million net worth. I have like $12. I'm currently deciding. I have to take Fork to the vet on Friday to get her prescription refilled, and I have to replace one of my tires that's flat. And I'm like, I will never survive both of these financial issues, right? Like, I I'm getting hit after hit after hit, right? So, but the internet says I have a net worth of $5 to $15 million. So you can't trust those things. Those aren't real. That's just something the internet says. Oh, I know. I literally have $12, yeah. So, yeah. Okay, so come join us. How many people do we have in real chat? How many people? You're from TikTok. Yay! 194 is pretty good. I might just hang up with them. Okay, so come join us. I'm going to hang up here. You guys come over to our real stream, twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. We're going to talk about current events. We're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about what's going on in the news from a left-wing political perspective. It's going to be fun. You're going to learn things. You're going to learn a lot, probably, right? I feel like we learn a lot together. So we're going to talk about some sort of, because it's Wednesday, we do a little segment called Weapons Wednesday where we talk a little bit about a weapon that's been in the news. Like for me personally, I don't understand a lot about weapons. So sometimes I miss the context of geopolitical events properly without it. So we're going to talk a little bit about a weapon. Then we're going to talk about something happening in the world. And then at the end, we're going to do a deep dive into Malawi and see what's going on with them geopolitically. It's going to be great. So come on over, come join us. And I'm going to hang up here. Okay. So we'll see you over there. Twitch.tv/Madeline Pendleton. Bye. Hi. Okay, just us now. Just us now. All right. Here's what we're going to do, everybody. We got a lot of people here today. We got a little burger rikers. Yeah, if Celebrity Net Worth turns $12 into $5 million, yeah, Kim probably has $12,000. Exactly. This is what I think is happening. So we're going to start off today with our Q&A. I'm going to put 10 minutes on the timer, and you guys can ask whatever your heart's desire. I'm so sorry because I'm late. We're getting straight into it. And I'll read them from top down. So you guys will be talking, and I'll be behind you just reading in order. And we're going to do this until the 10 minutes are up on the Q&A segment. So if you have questions for me, get ready. Anything goes, starting now. All right. Let's go. Questions. What's the last book I read? God. I actually don't know because I read so many books on my phone and I don't remember their names. Probably one of the Yugoslavia books. If you look in, I know what it was. It was something like NATO in Yugoslavia. It was a compilation of multiple different people talking about Yugoslavia. It is one of the sources in our Yugoslavia episodes. So that's the last one I read. And you'll find it. It's the one that's like I think maybe I talked about it on our Patreon. Yes. Malawi. Thank you for that. I appreciate that correction. I have to go back up to where we started with the last book. Where? I'm looking. Oh my God, I don't know where I left off. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, here we go. I'm here. Which vegan cheese do you use right now? I'm using Daya because it's been on sale at the store and Daya got good. I don't know when it got good, but it got really good and I recommend it. How do you prioritize issues you hold important? Joining an org really helped me. And they prioritize it and I trust them. And I like that kind of structure a lot. Who knew? Centralizing things and planning things actually is very, very effective. Do we still visit the map at all? Yes, we do, Glitter Girl. We're filling in the map at the end. Last 30 minutes of the segment. Should porn be banned under socialism? I don't know. That's a very, very hot topic of debate. My primary concern is standing with sex workers, right? I know that right now, decriminalizing sex work of any kind is positive for sex workers under capitalism. I think that once we enter socialism, there'd probably be a Soviet of sex workers, just like any other Soviet or group of people, and that would be something that they would probably lead the discussion on. Book Rex, I have an entry-level left-wing reading list that's in my link tree that you can check out. What do you think about Saddam Hussein? Not my favorite guy. Pretty interesting, though, how he went from being our best friend to being the most evil man on the planet that needed to be destroyed at all costs, right? It just reminds me of that quote that's like, it's dangerous being an enemy of the United States, but it's more dangerous to be a friend of the United States. That's a Passadism. Were we going to read the Passad text last week? Is that one of the recs? The only thing I know about Passadism is what my partner has told me because one of their friends is really into it. So I don't know enough to know. Okay. Do I already know whether or not I'm coming to Festa di Levante? No, because I don't have money. So that's the only thing holding me back. I really want to go. Something would have to financially change in a major way for me to be able to go right now, though. I keep getting hit. I don't know why. I didn't have any emergencies for years. And then it's like the past year and a half, It's just like every week there's 3. And I'm just like, oh shit, this is escalating fast. And it reminds me of how even if you think that you're financially stable under capitalism, it can all be taken away from you with like one bad day, right? So I had like a year and a half of just like hit after hit after hit with emergencies. All my savings drained. Now I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it's really, really crazy. So things that I live tight. I live on a small amount of money, and it's still not working. Like I don't live a luxurious lifestyle. So yeah, travel is something that I would not be able to consider unless something radically changed for me. Fave World War II tank. I don't know enough about the tanks. That's why we have to do Weapons Wednesday, so I can learn more about weapons, so I can have things like a favorite tank. Day trading stocks, you do it to survive. You know what? Marx owned and traded stocks. I think Marx talks about stocks in Capital Volume 3, and he talks about them how they're proof of concept of worker ownership. So I think it's a really interesting read for anybody who's interested in Marx's opinion on stocks. He owned stocks and traded stocks. Famously, public ownership is better than more privatized ownership. Obviously, we know the stock market is not the proper tool for public ownership, right? Especially under capitalism. But it is not super evil under capitalism, at least, because it is, you know, some form of public ownership, even if it's bad and weird. Do you remember what shifted you from anarchist to Marxist? Yeah, it was a few things. It was being really disenchanted with the very carceral nature of the anarchist community. The supposed anti-authoritarians were more authoritarian and carceral than any of the communists I'd ever met. And I didn't like the way they interacted and moved socially. And it was a precursor, I think, of where their politics lied for some of them. And once I started actually deconstructing propaganda I'd learned about communism and places that had Marxist-Leninist leadership, I was like, oh shit, all these things I thought I knew about the USSR, for example, Cuba, whatever, DPRK, were lies. These were wrong things. So once I started learning the truth about them, I was like, I cannot in good conscience condemn these countries. I cannot in good conscience say Cuba is just as bad as the United States. And in fact, furthermore, Cuba, the DPRK, etc., their state is the only thing keeping them alive and protecting them from becoming completely decimated by U.S. imperialism. So that shifted my perspective around. Okay, let's see. Favorite photo shoot I've ever done? I hate photo shoots. So I guess maybe the one for my book. That was fun and I was in it. Need you to know in South Korea they still have a working number to call out North Korean spies. Yeah. They really take that shit seriously. It's pretty wild. Okay. When will we be doing a hot dolphin trot summer stream for asks? We gotta get together with TakeYouTube to make that happen. I'm just saying. You know, that's gonna be a collective effort there. How would money be used in a socialist society? What are the strawman people use when it comes to socialism and money? So Marx actually thought in lower stage communism that people could switch to labor vouchers, right? He talks about labor vouchers a lot. I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. However, what we see is that when one country has a worker revolution, they still need to engage with the rest of the world. The rest of the world is not operating on a fucking labor voucher system, right? So you run into these complications. So most places after they have a worker revolution, the dictatorship, the proletariat will still use money because they have to engage in a global economy. So you'll find interesting ways people work around this. Like, for example, in Cuba, they have specific, and in the DPRK as well, they have specific free trade zones that certain things are allowed. In Cuba, for example, 20% of the island's economy is still private business, but it's tightly controlled and regulated. And they use a different currency in the tourist areas for foreign money than they do for the locals, which is one way they kind of manage it. And additionally, locals, in lieu of labor vouchers, right, they have ration books. So they get things for free. So that's kind of a way to mitigate it. So I think the currency in the transition period, you know, it's just, you're never going to get it exactly where you want it to be until everyone in the world is on board, or at least all your trading partners are. So, you know, probably the least pressing immediate concern once you have a dictatorship of the proletariat. Would I vote for AOC if she was on the ballot with a real shot of winning? I don't know. Here's what I'm going to say. I understand why people vote for Democrats. I don't understand why they endorse them or campaign for them. You're not going to hear me endorse a Democrat or campaign for a Democrat. If I ever vote in a private place of shame for a Democrat, you won't know about it. That's for damn sure. Right? It's between me and the devil himself. Right? I'm not campaigning for that. I'm not endorsing that or co-signing that ever. So let's see what else. Why do you think Americans don't like to read and give out books longer than 20 pages? What do you think we can do to make Americans like to read? So I think that anti-intellectualism was intentionally pushed forward as a policy agenda, we know, by many conservatives. In particular, when I was growing up, the Republican Party of Texas actually put in their charter that they wanted to discourage critical thinking in schools. So this has actually been something that we know is intentional from our government leadership to try to make people think less, right? I also feel like just general culture trends, like it's become very not cool to excel academically or do well in school, and reading literacy it goes along with that. So I remember when I was in 7th grade, I made friends with a bunch of cool kids. They were cool. They were like cool skater stoner kids. And I've always been a nerd. I've always been like a straight A student, like academic overachiever. So on the last day of school, everyone was putting down their report cards, and they were kind of competing to see who got the worst grades. And I was really nervous. I was like really socially anxious, and I was like, oh, they're going to know I'm like a nerd. They're going to know I like do well in school, and I'm not going to have friends anymore. But I just decided to kind of like own it, and I was like, I'm going to have you all be like, you're going to trip out when you see mine, ha ha ha. And then I put mine down, and it was literally like A+, like all the way down, like straight across the board, like A+, A+, A+. And this is when we got physical report cards. And they were like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah, like, you guys didn't know I'm taking like college level math in 8th grade. It was 8th grade this happened. It was 7th. It was 7th grade. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm taking like college level math right now. Like, I like school, sorry. and I owned it, and it was fine. But I remember that being weird. And I remember that being like a point of stress, because it was not cool to be academic or do well in school. So I think that we've made it a culture thing. I think that our power structure has actively tried to discourage it. They've encouraged this kind of anti-intellectualism. And I think people culturally have leaned into it a lot. And I think that's a major issue for Americans that we're going to have to deal with. I think that Americans can't read longer than 20 pages because they're out of practice. I know periods of time when I haven't read enough, I have to go back and read short stories to get myself in the practice of reading more and the habit of reading more. So I think the only thing we can do is make it cool. Right? During the October 7th situation, it became cool for people to learn about what was going on in Palestine. People wanted to read books about Palestine. People were asking me for book recs all the time during that time period, way more than ever before, because it became cool to want to be informed about the world. So I think that's our duty as Marxist-Leninists, right? We have to make people want to learn. We have to make it cool. And there's that quote that we keep coming back to that I thought about a lot after Cuba. Make the revolution irresistible. Make the revolution something people want to be a part of, even if they don't fully understand. So I think that's what we got to do. Oh, okay. And there's my timer. All right. I'm scrolling to meet you in the present. I hope I didn't miss too much good stuff. Okay. We're here. Yes. Welcome. Welcome to current time. You, me, everyone. Our timer is off. Card, do I believe Kim Jong-un will officiate your same-sex wedding if you send a really nice email? I think he might be a little regressive on social issues, unfortunately. Maybe, though. Maybe he'll surprise us all, like Guy Fieri. Nobody expected that from Guy Fieri. He came out lesbian #1 fan. #1 lesbian ally. So, who knows? I could see it. They've got similar hair. They got the tall hair. Haley says, if you want to be cool and read more, they have a booktube channel where they read all the genres, gay and horror and nonfiction. Yay. Okay. What gives me the impression he would be regressive on gay issues? Just because the place where culturally the DPRK is on gay issues right now, it's not criminalized, but it's also not protected. And when you talk to people in the DPRK about homosexuality, they're just like, well, we just don't have that here. Like, that's just a Western thing. Like, I don't know. We don't really have that here. I mean, obviously we know there are gay people there, right? But we also understand this kind of position socially on gay issues. This, I'm sure they will develop to be more progressive on gay issues in the future, but that probably tells me that they're not really engaging with it as a concept, so they probably don't have the most developed rhetoric around it. Even in Cuba, in 2019, they introduced measures to legally protect gay rights in their constitution at a constitutional level. But in order to do that, they had to do a massive outreach and education campaign. When they first polled people about how they thought they would vote on adding gay rights to the Constitution, all the polls said no. Everybody was like, no, no, no. So they actually put in the energy to try to educate people leading up to this, where they did like gender and sexuality classes for the public. They taught people, they did these outreach sessions to educate communities about what it meant to be gay, what just basically what it was, how it worked biologically, medically, things like whether it was a choice or not, or whether you're born this way, or like how gender factored into sexuality. They did these massive classes, and at the end, everybody voted overwhelmingly in favor to enshrine gay rights into their constitution. But that took effort, right? And that took them really wanting that and that being a priority for them in their initiatives. And it's amazing that they did that. North Korea hasn't done that, so I'd imagine they probably don't quite there yet. I mean, they're not criminalizing it, which is great. That's really, really good. Okay. But yeah, I imagine that'll be something that we start to see them develop more in the next 30 or 40 years, probably. Yeah. Yeah, Cuba's a bad bitch. Cuba's good for sure. Oh, P2Geeks. They got banned again. Someone got banned again? I didn't even see him get banned the first time. What did they do? Wait, Guy Fieri isn't a lesbian? My bad. I'm so sorry. You're correct, Chung the Beast. I've made a grave error. Was this a video or something you saw where multiple people said this about gay people? I've just never personally seen or heard it myself. Wait, about their... What do you mean? About gay people? You mean about the DPRK? Where they're just like, we don't have that here? You can see it in their... some of their... I don't know, like publications, some of their newspapers. They don't say anything like super disrespectful or anything. They're just like, yeah, I don't know. We don't have that. Right? You banned them again. So good. Do I think China will do what Cuba did when it comes to education? I'm not really sure. I mean, their focus right now is on poverty and their material issues, material concerns because of their population size. They're not super focused on social progressive issues. And if you think about it, it's like, okay, Cuba, they're stuck on an island and there's like 10 million of them. It's a third the size of California. There's only so much they can do in terms of economic development there. They have a lot of limitations. China, there's a lot more they can do in terms of economic development, and that's really where their focus is right now. So possibly, we know that China similarly, it's a little different. In China, you just can't do like overt displays of sexuality is what my understanding is of it, either gay or straight. It's just not, you just can't put a lot of sexuality on display anywhere. So things like gay clubs, often come under this law and this legislation, but not because they're gay, because it's like you got a picture of a guy in like a Speedo with text printed over his dick, like it's too sexual. Our culture. But you know what I mean. But they have whole gay areas, gay cities. They do have gay nightlife. So, yeah, I don't think that they're super... I don't, from my understanding, being gay is not super persecuted in China. It's just overt displays of any sexuality aren't super common there. Is my understanding of that. So you're on the lesbian side of Red Note. People can be out and about, but PDA is not really a thing regardless of your sexuality. Exactly. That was my understanding as well. Maoism in general, I'm not a Maoist for a reason, very obviously. Okay, wait, but we're done with Q&A. We gotta move into Weapons Wednesday. I got off base. So let's get into Weapons Wednesday. You heard this crazy story about a black activist in Tennessee who was supposedly exposing sexual assault cover-ups at FRSU and he had a severed pig's head left. I have no idea. I got nothing on that. I don't know about that. Larry says, mostly the way it is in the DPRK, there have only been very few cases of opinion pieces in DPRK that are even a little bit reactionary on their take on social issues. Compare this to how many violent anti-LGBT articles in the USA. Exactly. I think that's a really good perspective to share, Larry. And I haven't even seen bad ones. I've just seen them kind of be like, I don't know. We don't deal with that. That's what I've seen. And again, people have a real misunderstanding of what state-owned media means. People think that everything being published in any North Korean news outlet, because they're all owned by the state, means that it's the official statement of the North Korean government. No, that is not true whatsoever. Like, there was one guy who had a pretty low-level government job who published an opinion piece where he called Barack Obama a monkey and said a lot of very racist things about him. And this is what people come to, and they're like, and the North Korean government did it. And you're like, no, that was just one random dude who was apparently pretty racist. Think about how many racist random dudes we have in the United States, right? There was just one guy. And that's not the official policy of the DPRK government. So, as Larry was saying, people publish these... op-eds, basically, opinion pieces, and they're just average, everyday people. And I haven't even seen ones be super homophobic from them. Larry says, you've seen like a couple maybe. It's more in reference to the Pride movement, not LGBTQ people. That would make sense to me. And you also have to think about it from this perspective. Think about how gay rights are weaponized by homophobic institutions in the West. Homophobic capitalist institutions who don't give a fuck about us, right? But they want to weaponize our identities in order to make statements that allow them to politically persecute marginalized people, right? That's what they want to do. So you can see these countries being like, why you're using gay rights as a pretext to overthrow our government, to bomb us, to destroy us, to make us a colony of you again, right? Fuck that. You can understand, even if you don't think it's right. I don't think it's right to be reactionary in that way about gay people, but you can see individual people feeling that way and writing an op-ed here or there that's like, fuck this whole gay rights thing, right? So they have unique considerations there, obviously. Pride 2026, sponsored by the Heritage Foundation. Exactly. So, I think just really having, the Democrats use queer people as fodder. They're rainbow washing, they're pink washing. Exactly. We just have to have that full, comprehensive understanding of it, We were talking over the weekend about gay rights in the USSR. And, Stalin introduced criminalization for homosexuality. Why did he do it? Because there was a group of gay capitalists who were trying to overthrow the USSR. And he was like, fuck them. Being gay is bourgeois. And just kind of had a meltdown. It was not Stalin's greatest moment. We don't fucking like that. That wasn't great, But also we recognize that it was the 1930s and a lot of straight people had very bigoted, weird, backwards ideas about homosexuality. That doesn't make it okay, but you also would be foolish to not recognize the specific climate that was happening in. And we understand probably that the USSR would have ended up being very progressive on gay rights over time, right? And we know that. So, these kinds of things are just important to keep in mind, right? And also, I think that, again, as Larry said, comparing it to the United States, we don't have the right, where I live, to judge anybody on not being progressive enough on gay rights, right? Do we know what civil rights look like in China? What is the social justice culture like? I mean, they use the Marxist-Leninist right to self-determination for oppressed nations. So even though 95% of China is Han Chinese, the 5% that's not have a lot of political autonomy because of that framework. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, West Germany is a good hint versus East, yeah. Yeah, gay rights and marriage are under attack right now in America. We need to worry about us, not China. Exactly. And also, we have no excuse. I mean, China's doing fine. They're okay. But, when you want to look at a place like the DPRK or Burkina Faso, and you want to judge them for not being progressive enough on gay rights, it's like, I'm sorry, they're in fucking survival mode right now. It's kind of not the immediate concern. Here in the United States, we don't have an excuse. We don't have an excuse to let homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia in general run rampant like it does. The reality is that the capitalists like it because they can employ it as that technique of a culture war to keep us engaged with that, so we're not fighting them, right? Yeah, same-sex marriage didn't become legal until May 1st in 2009 in Sweden. So, yes. Okay, should we talk about a weapon, chat? Should we get into a weapon? I don't really have a weapon in mind to talk about today. Landmines. Oh, this is a good one, Virgo. Like we should talk about Laos also, like the unexploded ordnance in Laos. Since I ran a little bit late, would you guys be okay with us just kind of unilaterally deciding to go with that today? Can we just watch the film Weapons? Trebuchet. Can we do unexploded ordnance in Laos? Would that be okay with you guys? Virgo, does that fit in line in line? There it is, with what you were thinking about, or is that different? Because I don't know if it, okay, yes, Virgo says yes. Okay, we're gonna do it. So let's talk about this. I think this is really, really interesting. All right. So for those of you who don't know, Laos was the most heavily bombed country on the planet. And most of this happened during the Vietnam War because we basically targeted Vietnamese communists in Laos who are using parts of Laos as a passageway to get supplies, etc., from like the south into the north, etc. So, this is a Kissinger hate day, really. And we know Laos, there are comrades today, they're communist, but a lot of the issues they run into materially still stem from being absolutely obliterated by the U.S. government, primarily during the Vietnam War. And so one of the things they're dealing with is a ton of unexploded ordnance, which basically just means, here I've got a website that's actually, looks like it's going over everything I'm talking about. Oh, that was a screensaver. Sorry, hold on. Haha. Hold on. I gotta get it all set up. It's like every time now I have to reset up all my little scenes to transition. Okay, so this website's talking about what we're talking about here. The Lao National Unexploded Ordnance Program So here, they actually say it, the most bombed country in the world. I just pulled this up. The Lao PDR has the unfortunate distinction of being the most heavily bombed country in the world in terms of the number of unexploded ordnance per capita. The bombs dropped include more than 270 million cluster munitions, as the Lao people call them, bombs, which were released from cluster munitions. So, very, very interesting. When was the bomb dropped? Okay. At the end of Indochina War of 1964 to 1973, and for more than 40 years, unexploded ordnance remains a major humanitarian and socioeconomic challenge for the country, causing injuries and deaths, limiting access to productive land use, and adding significant costs to the development process. So basically, like, imagine this about Laos, right? You're a farmer. You want to farm, but you can't because you look at a huge plot of farmable land and it might just be full of basically landmines, right? Or bombs that were dropped that never exploded. And if you go there and disturb them, everything could explode and you could die. This is what they're dealing with in Laos all the time, right? 22,000 people. Oh, they're called bombies. That's what they're called. I misread it, bombies. 22,000 people have just been exploded since the end of the war in this way in Laos, which is very, very, very terrifying. Around 300 people now currently die from this every single year. And that's a big drop in what the numbers used to be. So here are the most impacted areas on a map of it, right? And then let's see if we have any other info here. The victims, the impact, let's see. Okay, so there are also like these orgs that are trying to get rid of them. The United States should be the ones to clean this up because it's us, and we don't, right? So Laos, they're talking about it here from 1964 to 1973, more than 2 million tons of bombs were dropped on Laos. The intensity and scale of the bombing was equivalent to a plane load of bombs dropping every 8 minutes for 9 years. Today, 70% of the population lives below poverty, and most families are dependent on growing rice, but unexploded bombs make this work life-threatening. Like, you can't go farm the food you need to live because you're afraid you will explode. That's how bad it is. 40% of the 20,000 Lao people who have been killed by these explosives since the end of the war were children. So they've got a picture here. Soy, age 6, was playing with her friends. They found a cluster bomb. Moments later, it exploded, and one of her friends died. So we have a quote from a person here from Nabo Village who says, there were planes flying overhead every day during the war. The Vietnamese had many bases and bunkers to hide from the bombs, but the Laos villagers had to hide in the forest and live off wild rice. All the houses were destroyed and many people died during that time. After the war, my family moved back to the area, but in the decades after the war, many people in the village have been killed by unexploded bombs while farming and foraging. This is interesting. I feel like there's probably a political motivation for them using this quote because it seems to imply somehow the Vietnamese communists were to blame for this, but I don't think that that's actually what's going on here at all. So, the rat thing. I haven't seen the rat thing. By any means necessary, says death isn't the primary issue from unexploded Imperial munitions. It's the maiming. South Asia leads the world in missing limbs because of these old bombs. Yeah. So again, not everybody dies. A lot of them do get maimed. Okay, so they do use rats to sniff for landmines. Yeah, it's the communist fault that the communists were getting airstrike. It was a really weird wording of that. I feel like that was intentional. This is probably some sort of Western-backed agenda. We're going to look that up. So this, basically the United States should be cleaning this up, and we're not, and the world's trying to put pressure on this. If we talk about, people are just pretending like all the bombs we've dropped and are dropping currently aren't accelerating climate change. Yeah, like, this is bad for the planet. I mean, the U.S. military is one of the worst things for the environment ever as well. So organizations are going out there trying to basically find and safely remove this stuff. It's very, very challenging now. So it's estimated that around a third of the 270 million cluster bombs that were dropped on Laos during the Vietnam War just didn't explode. And those are the ones that are still around. So roughly a third of Laos is contaminated with these bombs, which is wild. Like, and this is them handling them, right? The remote village of Nonsenbound is home to over 1,000 people. In 2019, a 750-pound aircraft bomb was unearthed, just 20 meters from the nearest home. They said our team spent 53 days working closely with the local community to plan the safe disposal of this enormous bomb. It took 100 Halo staff, 150 villagers, 4,000 tons of sand, and 200,000 sandbags. Happily, the bomb was securely destroyed with no injuries or damage to the village. Learn how we disposed of the bomb. Let's watch this.
Practice for making bread, I reckon. What we need to do is get people to empty half of these sandbags for where this is getting smaller. Because we have to build a roof over this, I'm having a think about which way is going to be more stable with tons of sand placed on top of it. And so my thinking is that I create two doorways, one you can see here and one you can see there, with support on that side of this tube by way of sandbags, this side of this tube, and approximately here, so that I can build access for myself out of this tube. I'm going to have to come up this ventilation tube because that's the only way in and out. However, it's black rubberized plastic and very, very slippy. So what I've been doing this morning is I've been making a very rudimentary rope ladder with the best rope we can find in the village, which I'll have to climb up and climb back down again. So this bamboo is going to stop it from falling back down the tube. There'll be another one on the bottom end to keep it taut so that it works properly. After this, I'm going to have to practice getting in and out of this tube. You can see at the bottom that there is further ventilation holes covered in sandbags and what will be covered in mounds and mounds of sand. So I'll have to get in approximately 30 metres, sort of down and back up again, approximately a metre wide. So I'll have to crawl in from that end, up the ladder. This is going to be making a sort of expansion chamber, a little room, and then get back out, down to the bottom.
So I'm just pausing this because there's some good stuff happening in the chat. I mean, well, first of all, there's a revolt happening where Big Yahoo and Big Gotco are demanding mod access. So for those of you not following that, social unrest brews in the chat, okay? I am neutral. I'm Switzerland. Actually, I'm not neutral. Do not give them mod access no matter what you do. But the more serious thing that's going on is, Virgo was pointing out, these people are risking their lives to do this. This is a volunteer thing. Think about how dangerous this is. They are risking their lives to do this work. The United States government should be doing this. We should be cleaning up our own mess around the globe, Yeah, the House of Big cannot be mods. This is a lot. Yes, Virgo is correct. I'm emotionally neutral, but logistically, that's a hard no. Everything will be on fire in 10 seconds. I'll get banned. Everyone will get banned. And somehow there will just be like videos of dancing rats and chipmunks playing 24/7. Fresno will get bombed somehow in this process. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. Okay, anyway. So But yeah, the bomb cleanup, these people are risking their lives to do this because the U.S. government won't do it. Because the U.S. government won't do it. And when we talk about the U.S. military being one of the largest polluters on the planet, we talk about the actual bombs that detonate. We can talk about the effects of us bombing like we did in Yugoslavia, key infrastructure that leaked toxic chemicals out into the environment. The actual bombs themselves. We can talk about what we did to Korea, testing napalm, the effect that has on the environment as well as the people there. There's also things like this, though. This stuff is so bad for people and the planet, and we have absolutely no accountability whatsoever, the U.S. government. We don't go clean up our own shit. And some other people were like, how did this happen again in Laos? And there is a few ways that people pointed out that's true. The majority of this bombing was done ostensibly to stop Vietnamese communist supply trails, because there was a trail that went through Laos that they used basically during the war in order to transport supplies for the communists. And the United States government was bombing Laos to ostensibly bomb this route that they had established. Also, though, Laos is communist. They were also having a communist revolution. They were okay with helping the communists in Vietnam because they were also communists. They ideologically supported their efforts, right? I often summarize the Vietnam War, as that time the United States really wanted France to own Vietnam. This was an imperialist war, right? This was a war of colonization, and a very, very, very violent and unjustifiable thing that the Western powers, the evil empire, right, was trying to do to Vietnam. So, I think that this is... Thankfully, both of these countries were able to expel us, as somebody says, us, the United States, the West, right, the U.S. government. Thankfully, they were victorious in this effort. However, there's been absolutely no follow-up accountability for the destruction that we left behind. And Laos is very impoverished. We don't hear a lot about communism in Laos because Laos is in survival mode. And imagine a third of your land you just can't safely walk on because you don't know if you'll die. That's what they're experiencing here. So it's very, very hard, to try to develop a functioning infrastructure of any kind, enough food to be grown in these places. It's very challenging. Yeah, very, very horrible. So, okay. I think that I'm going to keep this up. We can watch the last 3 minutes in a sec, but I want to bounce around a little bit. Just to talk some more about this. Okay, so I knew it. Remember when I was like, why are they using this quote to make it seem like it's the Vietnamese communist fault? So they're funded by the UK government, the government of Ireland, and the government of the United States. So this is something, when you look into this stuff, the United States government won't officially go and do this, but we will fund little small DIY projects of people trying to do it to act like we're doing something, right? But we're not. So that's why they're using these quotes that don't really criminalize or demonize the USA for our role in these bombs. So, and that's where we had the quote where it's like, well, the Vietnamese communists, they had bunkers, but the poor Lao people didn't. Well, it's like, okay, well, why the fuck was the United States dropping bombs on them? Why the fuck was the United States in Vietnam in the first place to begin with? None of these things is being addressed here, basically. Let me see is the link broken? Sorry, I just saw this for go. It works. It works. Okay. So, Toby's here. Oh my god, hi Toby. Where's Toby? Hi Toby. So I think that I have some podcast episode stuff that talks about this, maybe in my Air America kind of section. And there'll be sources in that if you want to look into that. Yeah, it's like when Iran was people said Iran was using children as shields, but it's like, well, why was the U.S. bombing children? Like, this is the kind of the way the narrative is spun that people really, really don't talk about. But yeah, Laos is very much in survival mode still to this day as a result of this. And this ties into, you guys have heard me, not to make it about Fresno, but the Hmong people, which were a Lao Hill tribe people that were nomadic, that ran into conflict with the locals because they had a different way of doing things that often complicated things. And the CIA tricked them into basically helping the CIA in the United States during the Vietnam War. And when we lost, we just kind of left them there. And all of the people of Laos were like, you're traitors. You sided with these evil fucking people who destroyed our country. And ultimately, the U.S. government had to airlift many of the Lao people out into safety. And that's why we have such a large Lao population in Minneapolis specifically and in Fresno, California today. When we do. And they come from this whole experience of being manipulated, lied to, misled by the American powers, right? And the Lao people being like, you're the enemy. Like, how could you do this? Which they were correct to be upset about as well. It's just a complicated situation. All right, so we have another thing here from humanium.org. Unexploded bombs still endanger children in Laos and Cambodia. You get really interesting wording again. I'm willing to bet like all these orgs are kind of funded by like NGOs and nonprofits and this kind of like show of good faith or whatever, and it does affect how they're able to talk about this. So I'm guessing we'll probably see that in this as well, but let's see. While the Vietnam War ended over 50 years ago, remnants of unexploded ordnances, UXO, buried across rural areas continue to injure and kill children in Laos and Cambodia as well. These hidden explosives are found near homes, schools, fields, and forests, making everyday activities like playing, farming, or collecting water potentially fatal. Their impact goes beyond physical harm. They also disrupt access to education, healthcare, and safe spaces, violating children's rights, hindering community development. So they talk about the same thing we talked about. To disrupt the flow of troops from North Vietnam to the south, the U.S. heavily bombed the Ho Chi Minh Trail, a critical supply route that passed through neighboring Laos and Cambodia. So this is my understanding of this as well. Approximately 1/3 of the explosives dropped never detonated when they were launched, and that left over 800,000 of these things behind. They're buried beneath the soil now, they're overgrown by vegetation, or they're hidden by changing landscapes, meaning they're hard to detect, and people can accidentally walk on top of them. A playground turned battleground. They're talking about one morning on a school holiday, a 4-year-old explored the forest to dig for bamboo shoots. She found a small round object that looked like a baseball. She picked it up thinking it was a toy, and it exploded, seriously injuring her, right? And she had to go 2 hours to a nearby hospital. This is the kind of stuff that happens all the time. This is very, very common in rural areas. So children are the most at risk because they don't really understand, obviously, what's happening. They think it's like a toy. They don't know. And that's why they're so disproportionately affected by this. Oh, so sad. The kiddos. Okay, so let's look up the rats. These are in Tanzania, though. Cambodia. We got Laos. Laos? This is about Laos? Cambodia, though. We'll read about it in Cambodia. It's 5:45 in the morning, and at a training field outside Siem Reap, home of the Angkor Wat, Civ, natural wonder, Cambodia's demining rats are already hard at work. Look at them. Their noses are close to the wet grass, starting from side to side as they try to detect explosives buried just beneath the ground. Rats are so smart, by the way, also. They are so smart. And very cute, okay? Not to get too vegan on you all, but love that. They're very good at it. You see this 200 square meters. They clear only 30 minutes or 35 minutes. Compare that to a Demeter, maybe 2 or 3 days. Pick up all the fragmentation, but the rats only pick up the smell of TNT. Interesting. Neighboring Vietnam and Laos also have this unexploded ordnance, and the rats go there too. So they do. They use these rats to sniff it. Oh my God, it's so cute. It's got a little outfit on to keep track of it. That's so cute. MEB, what's it like being wrong? Look how cute it is. Are you crazy? That's all of us. What are you talking about? I love it. Oh, I love the rat. So a Belgian nonprofit started doing this 15 years ago. The idea was very strange, says operations coordinator Thiep Bunthorn. What a fucking name. This is not a name. I'm sorry. This Thiep Bunthorn? What? What the fuck is happening in Belgium? Thiep Bunthorn. Cambodian people kill rats, don't like rats, but they're cost efficient. Oh, that's so sad. They're easy to transport, they're easy to train. They don't set off mines because they're so light. Yeah, and people don't like rats. People kill rats. I get it. It's the guy from the Muppets. Okay. Well, I feel like we now know about the unexploded ordnance. What do you guys think? Do you have any questions? Anything else you want to learn? There is a Science Direct article that I will pull up for people to do more reading on if they would like. It's just kind of the same info over and over again, right? They talk about UXO here. Rats are winning. Rats are comrades, is what we've learned. The vast majority of unexploded ordnance is done by actual humans, not rats. I refuse to acknowledge that, actually. I think it's only the rats that are saving the day. I don't think so. Oh shit, I just fucking unplugged my computer. Oh. The comrades. Yes. I'll link this Science Direct article for anybody who wants to do some more reading on the issue. But I think, yeah, this is stuff we should be aware of. Like, when we talk about, like, why isn't this country like this? Why isn't this country more this? And it's like, well, usually because it's been fucking brutalized in some way by the West. So I just popped the link in there. Everybody vote. Is Thiep Bunthorne, Rat Commander, a comrade? I'm going to say honorary comrade, yeah. Love it. Thiep, our man. Yeah, the United States, in summary, the United States ruins everything, murders and maims children. Rats come in and fix it. They fix it for us. Yeah, that's basically it. Yes, comrade. Okay, all right, everybody. I think that wraps up our Weapons Wednesday today. So let's get into the news. For anybody new here, what we do now is we're going to take a look at current events. And the way this works is we get 5 different news stories and we vote on which one we want to decide to talk about. Now, the 5 that we get usually come from recommendations from the chat. Sometimes I'll recommend one, sometimes I won't. And I'll do a countdown. And when I say to, you can submit a link to a news story. So the link, try to make it something current, ideally within the past 2 weeks or so. Try to make it a full news story. Try to make it not too video focused because the videos sometimes get messed up on the YouTube exports. And try to make it something you think everybody will be interested in learning about. And what we do was we'll take the top 5, the first 5 we got, and then we'll run a poll on them and everybody can vote. So I'm going to take a few minutes, everybody. I'm going to see if there's anything in the news that really interests me. You guys get your news links ready for the countdown. Oh my god, we actually have Laos news. I'm not going to submit this, but 5 villagers stuck in a flooded cave for more than a week found alive in Laos. That's wild. Okay, there's some interesting stuff here. That chemical tank didn't explode, for those of you wondering. Out here. I think that's pretty fascinating. Okay, I've got my rack. I think my rack is Biden sues the Justice Department to stop the release of audio from interviews. I don't know what it's about, but I'm curious. So I got this. So Ghost in the Cell, we got some stuff to watch during the poll. We read an article on Alan McLeod and Cuba and USAID funding media for regime change on your stream this morning. Yeah, that's really good. Did they talk about like Zunzuneo and the AIDS clinics and stuff? It's pretty wild. That sounds really, really good. That sounds good. Okay. Hold your Zunzuneo and CubaNet. Yeah, CubaNet. That's right. Yeah. What's crazy about Zunzuneo is it was literally just like some chick who worked for USAID's like nephew or something who helped put it together, right? We love Alan McLeod. So wild. Okay, so everybody get your news links ready for us today. That sounds like a good stream. I'm sad I missed it. I love the waiting room though. And then you guys don't have to deal with Burger Ike, which is nice because it was extra bleak today on Burger Ike. It was pretty bad. All right. So we're doing the countdown to drop your links for news. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Whatever we got. If you've got it, I'm clicking it. All right. We got the Fidel Castro daughter situation. All right. This can be our second one. What else we got? Anybody else? Is it just me and Autistic Baddie? We're the only ones? Okay, Weeb Corps got one. Oh yeah, the stadium workers. Yeah, we can put that back in. Yes. It's okay. Okay, Futurism. Haley. Okay, Energy Structure. Oh, okay, El Nino. Haven't heard that name in years. And Al Jazeera. And then, the timeline of the attacks. Ooh, Transfox Girl. This is a good one. This is going to set us at 5. It's going to set us over, but this one's interesting to me. I'm going to choose to use Transfox Girls instead of mine. Even though this does look interesting. No, I'm going to stop it. Okay, so here are options for today. Virgo, if you are ready. The one from Big God goes so funny. Ready for the poll. The poll is going to be Fidel Castro's daughter. I don't know what she's up to. something weird. We got, oh my gosh, ice and the LA Stadium. I gotta get the actual thing there. So, Ice Strike Stadium. Yeah, that's something like that. It's gonna be interesting though. I think it's really interesting. Okay, so then we have scientists detect huge structure under ocean fueling the deadly upcoming El Nino. Okay, El Nino, for those of you guys who don't know, for us millennials, El Nino was like apparently devastating when we were children or something. And so we had to deal with, like, for a year just hearing El Nino on the news over and over and over again. I don't even know. Then we also have Iran updates. And we have trans segregation happening. So that's it. El Nino was pretty bad in 2024 also. Okay, interesting. So Virgo's getting the poll ready for us. So if anybody has any entertainment they would like to watch, okay, now is the time. Ghost in This Hell's got one coming in. All right, the poll is ready. So if you don't see it at the top of your chat, please refresh. You know the rules. Vote or gulag. Democracy only works if you work it. So get in there and rock the vote. No FX rock against Bush style. You rock that vote. You rock that vote. I am going to play this video from Ghost in This Hell. And I do want to see the anti-communist slap.
You want to know what it is? It's not that like 3,000 people hold more wealth than the bottom 320 million Americans. No. And it should be, but it's not. It's not even that people like that are the ones who have the media, all of it, bought and paid for to spew the same nonsensical garbage to you over and over and over again, all scripted, all planned, and you eat it up. You eat it up like it's gospel truth. It should be, but it's not. It's not even, listen, it's not even that people like that are the exact ones funding all of this overreach, all of this, you can't do this, and I'm gonna watch you do that, and you wanna know what it is? You can't even repost my video without getting restrictions on TikTok or getting the video taken down. And then you know what? And then they refuse you the ability to appeal it because they want us quiet. They want us quiet. They don't want us talking about this, and you have the power. You have the power to make this go viral all over again. This one right here. Make them see it. This isn't okay anymore.
Who is the Joker of TikTok? Is this a phenomenon I'm not familiar with? Because the other day, Lizzie and I went out to dinner, and this guy walked down the street in LA, but not in an area you would expect to see this, like in Los Feliz, like on Hillhurst, wearing full Joker makeup. Is this a thing? What is up with the Joker? Is this the Woker? Did we find him? Is he the Woker? Is he the Woker? Okay. I didn't know this existed. I'm not mad at it. I'm gonna tell you right now. You know, I think we need more weird. I like anything a little weird in the world. It's, you guys know, that's where I indulge the Burger Reich and the trolls, because sometimes they're on some weird shit, and I'm like, well, at least it's interesting. I like these to be a little interesting. Okay, wait. Haley is saying the 2024 El Nino is what devastated Appalachia. Oh my God, that was an El Nino weather pattern. Okay, yes, I do remember that. Yeah, it's a repeating weather pattern. I didn't think it was every year. I think it's like every few years it comes. But I do remember, Mallard's also 40, like I'm guessing. Then yeah, when we were young, we there was like devastating El Nino weather patterns as well. It's very, very interesting. You know, I like weird. Lord Oxium, hi. Hello. We were on Woke 2. The Woker is on Woke 5. I think you're right. The Manosphere was, but we took him back, just like Charlie Woke. Okay, we've got a YouTube video to watch as well. The vote is still going on. This 6 minutes, not bad. Okay.
There's this amazing tweet that I found, and I was like, anti-communism has melted a lot of people's brains sometimes, but like this was a new level of brain melting. This new claim that's been floating around on social media that the Bolsheviks killed over 60 million Christians.
Oh, this is where it's coming from.
Between 1917 to 1946, the Bolsheviks killed over 60 million Christians, yet you won't be taught about that. And here's Graham giving us a forbidden history lesson. Let's see what Graham has to say.
Did you know over 60 million Christians were killed by Islamic radicals from 1917 to 1946. Oh, wait, that was the Bolsheviks that did that.
I don't
What is this Orwell quote? It says, who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. First of all, this fucking weird ass.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's also that Rage Against the Machine song, right? Why am I just not realizing they're quoting Orwell? Like, it's deep. Oh, God. The 90s were so embarrassing. Oh, my God. Okay, let's keep going.
Ass MLG sunglasses thing. Like, be so fucking for real. And like, Graham, what are you doing? Why'd you leave the nursing home? why are you carrying a copy of the Gulag Archipelago and ranting about Islamic radicals? Like, I'm a little confused here. You know, Graham, she left her bed, she left her nursing home, and now she's posting weird conspiracy theories on Twitter. I was a little confused about this. Where did this claim come from? Citation needed? You know, 60 million? That's a little wild considering the fact that the population at the time, it's roughly, so looking at the entire empire, it's like 174 million people in the empire, right? 170, 180 million people in the Russian Empire. If you killed 60 million Christians, that's like almost a fourth or a third of the entire population. And so I tried to do more research. I literally just Googled, you know, Bolsheviks killed 60 million Christians. And the first thing that came up was this weird government document from the state of Oregon. But I want to go over this document because it is the wildest shit I've ever seen. So this is,
For those of you who don't know, who aren't from the United States, Oregon is often thought of as a really progressive state here in the USA. We've talked about this before, but just the context. It was literally founded because it was more racist than the rest of the United States. And they were like, we think slavery is bad just because then you have to live next to black people. And we're so racist, we don't even want to be in the same state as black people. So we're forming Oregon where no black people are allowed even as slaves. So for this to be from Oregon is relevant. I'm just going to say. Checks out.
from the Oregon legislature. Keep in mind, I don't know anything about this. I don't know any other context other than like this document that popped up on Google. So apparently this was a paper that was presented against a bill requiring school districts to provide instruction about the Holocaust and genocide. And here we go. You know, the same fucking Orwell quote from the Grammy video is saying, as George Orwell said, who controls the past controls the future, who controls the present controls the past, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's the same bullshit. The reason I'm sitting here today and before you is I firmly believe that accurate and confirmed history of the world, history of mankind must be tested and proven through multiple avenues of research, discovery, and validation. And I'm like, okay, where's this going? When it comes to teaching your kids about what happened in the past, it's crucial that history lessons, just like science, math, and logic, be grounded in facts and reasoning. Okay, nothing objectionable here. A sad part of human history deals with the subject of genocide, which this bill that this document's about is addressing. Genocide is the crime of destroying or conspiring to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. It is a good idea that new Oregon law requires school districts to be required to teach children about the history of this kind and current events. Children need to know about the brutal, murdering side of humanity's past, such as the case of the Armenian genocide or Ukrainian genocide. Okay, bro, we're doing the Holodomor stuff. Or, according to the author of the Gulag Archipelago, the greatest genocide of all time, and that the 66 million mostly Christian Russians who were murdered by Jewish Bolsheviks under Stalin from the years 1919 to 1953. So, apparently, people are reading the Gulag Archipelago and saying that it's their source for this for this statistic. And I'm like, what? If it hasn't become clear by now, guys, this entire document is like Nazi propaganda. Like the Orwell quote, you scroll down, I'm like, okay, things are a little sus here. You scroll down, and it's like, it's fucking Holocaust denial talking points. Like straight up denying gas chambers, calling it Soviet propaganda that like Nazi death camps existed. You know, and like they do the fucking thing where they say Zyklon B was to kill insects and not to gas people to death. I'm like, oh, the 60 million number is just Nazi propaganda. Like, all of this is just Nazi propaganda. So this is the wildest part. SB 664 also contains a poison pill, and that of the term Holocaust, which is an obvious reference to the Jews' understanding of a small part of World War II history. As many of us were taught, the Holocaust refers to the systematic genocide committed by Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler. Allegedly? What? Allegedly. That murdered around 6 million European Jews between 1941 and 1945. First of all, there's so many things wrong with this, right? Obviously, the Holocaust happened. Like, I don't even want to delve into Holocaust denial. If you want, like, good debunkings of Holocaust denial, you know, Three Arrows has some pretty good videos. Second of all, right, like, this is based on a misreading. I don't think the Gulag Archipelago says this. The Gulag Archipelago, as anti-communist propaganda as it is, does not say that 66 million Christian Russians were murdered by Jewish Bolsheviks. This entire narrative is like Nazi propaganda to do the both sides thing, where they say, yeah, Hitler may have allegedly killed 6 million Jews, but what about the Jewish Bolsheviks that killed 60 million Christians?
Okay. Why do they always make fun of us and be like, all your enemies aren't Nazis? And I'm like, well, make them stop saying Nazi shit. I don't want them to be Nazis. Why are they being Nazis all the time? I don't fucking understand. They're literally Nazis. Why are they proving the meme correct? You know, I don't... Stop doing it then. Stop doing... Like, I don't fucking get this. I also wondered, because for a couple days, everybody on my page was like, 60 million Christians, 60 million Christians. I'm like, who the fuck did you get this from? You got this from some rambling old lady on fucking Twitter? Please, come to me. A rambling middle-aged NB on streaming platforms instead for your news. Like, hello. Absolutely wild. They're really super... The general population is getting a lot more Nazi very, very quickly, which we knew would happen. But seeing it is different. Yeah, the arrows thing. What's up with that? I don't know. The primary duty of American patriotism is to blur that line as told for Twitch says. Yes. Wild. Okay. Well, I'm so glad we got to watch that. And now I understand what's going on. People really need to understand the most woke you can get is being a Marxist-Leninist. It is peak woke. It is the most woke you can get. Our middle age is a significantly different thing to hog middle age. I love being middle-aged. I'm just going to put it out there. It's great. I'm having a great time. I have no retirement savings anymore. For a while, I thought I'd be on track. That was foolish of me. I see now. I understand. Touche, capitalism. Touche, American capitalism. I thought I might have figured things out for a minute. You know, but here we are again. So, you know. Yeah, I'm happy to be on the woke Marxist train as well. This is the most woke we can get. We really have to deal with the left com thing, though. They're popping up all over the place. Just saying the weirdest shit. They won't read anything. It's absolutely wild. Okay, so what won today, speaking of our gay woke agenda, is this story we've got going on. Trans people facing segregation. Now, this is a Guardian article, so I'm not sure if it's going to be... It is US-based, though. But this looks like England. Okay, so let's talk about this. This might be a little bit more international. All right. So, hard-won vital legal protections have been upended by the Supreme Court and the EHRC. Ultimately, our lawmakers must fix this. Alexandra Permar-Yee is a campaigner for trans equality and a director of Trans Plus Solidarity Alliance. So, you got a little picture. I know that's England because I recognize this. So take that. Rest of the world, the American education system is not that bad. When you try to imagine the lives of trans people in the UK today, you could be forgiven for thinking they have always been dominated entirely by fear and anxiety. Things have been getting worse, but until recently, my life as a transgender woman had not been consumed with worrying about how I'm supposed to live it. That is, until last year's UK Supreme Court ruling. In fact, when I've worried about needing a bathroom or felt hesitant about taking up space when invited to join a women's network, it's been other women who have made me feel welcome and pushed me to stop worrying. This was the reality for many trans people in the UK until 2025, when the court decided that man and woman in the Equality Act must refer to biological sex, upending decades of shared understanding of the law. It's absolutely wild. This is, you know, obviously it goes without saying, but this is wild for a couple of reasons. Biological sex in itself is a spectrum. So even if you erroneously believed that sex and gender were the same thing, because we know biologically sex is a spectrum, you would have to acknowledge that gender must be a spectrum as well, right? Kubashi, is it relevant to what we're looking at? Should I play it now or should I play it later? Yeah. And what is biological sex? That's, you know, if you look at, there's actually this chart. I'm going to try to figure out. Don't look at me while I try to Google this. It's embarrassing, the search terms. Yes, here it is. I was talking to my partner about this the other day, actually, because we were talking about being intersex. And I was talking about how, like, a lot of people who are intersex don't know that they are intersex because of how it manifests. It's not obvious. Some people realize they're intersex later in life. They're not sure. Some people would never know. Because we were talking about our own experiences with gender. You know, my partner and I are both non-binary, and like what that means and how that feels and how that plays into our understanding of sex as non-binary people. And so I was talking about this beyond XX and XY and how like the simplistic right-wing idea that some things are male and sometimes are female, how that's even a fallacy. And they have a section up here, with a gender spectrum that's pretty simplified, but whatever. And then they have this whole thing with biological sex as a spectrum. And even they have to say typical biological, but that's not even, perfect, right? So, yeah, I feel like this is just for the people who are like, it's science. You're like, well, it's not science. It's not fucking science, right? That's not how science works. That's not how culture works. None of this is just a thing we made up. So, and as Miss MM2 says, yeah, a lot of doctors makes parents choose and get their intersex children surgeries. And it's true. And this is a thing of the past too. So like if you're our age, like, 40, middle age, a lot of people in your life had this experience. They were born and because their biological sex was not presenting in a way that because their sex organs basically did not look in a way that was immediately identifiable for doctors in the room. They basically made a decision about what they wanted the kid to be, and then they performed surgery on the child to make it appear in line, usually just based on their genitals and how their genitals presented with what these doctors thought they should look like. And so this happened to a lot of kids and they didn't even know about it, until they were much older. Some of them never learned about it. Very, very interesting. Yeah, they used to just decide so it doesn't upset the parents. Right, and the chromosome thing none of these are good indicators. So, if you're ever talking to a right-winger or a TERF or something like that, this is a good resource to show them. If they're like, it's biology, you'd be like, well, this is biology. And this is even a simplified version of biology, right? So, I think this is, being intersex is as common as having red hair. Yeah, it's very common. So again, even if you erroneously identify gender and sex as being the same, which they are not, because we know gender is culturally created, right? You would still have to acknowledge that there's more than one gender, certainly, that gender is a spectrum experience as well, because we know sex is a spectrum experience as well. Oh, they used to use a genital ruler to make the determination. I wasn't aware of that. That's pretty wild. Very, very wild. Right winger or TERF, same picture. Yeah, you're right, exactly. The medicalist arguments aren't convincing either. It's usually better to ask why you're talking about trans people when your boss has functionally enslaved you. I mean, true. It's like, why is this your fucking problem? This is weird. Yeah, once you get out of high school biology, you learn about trans people. And you learn about intersex people, you learn about, the complicated relationship between gender expression in society and sex and our expectations, blah, blah, blah. Even when you learn about history. When you start learning about history, you start learning about difference in gender expression as well. Like, I remember being a little kid and being obsessed with all of, this is probably, you guys know, if you were a little kid who liked pirates, you probably learned about all the lady pirates who, they were ladies, but they were living their lives as men. And you're like, well, those are probably just transgender men who were pirates. But that was really captivating and fascinating to me as a kid. So basically if you enter any academic field outside of high school, you're going to learn about these experiences. Okay, wait. The copy machine says being intersex is not as common as red hair, depending on the definition. Is definitely right. Well, depending on the definition. So being intersex actually has a really, really wide, range of ways it can manifest, right? So yeah, depending on your definition. But if you're using the broadest definition of it, I believe that is correct. Actually, I did a whole podcast episode about this, and it was a while ago, and it had all the statistics in it and their sources, so you can go fact check me and look it up. It also depends on your definition of red. Yeah. So, okay. So whatever the case, this is crazy. So I think the reason why we're talking about all of this and bringing it up is because the idea that a court can decide what a man and a woman is deranged, is the whole point of this. Why are we getting into the weeds about what biological sex means, what gender means, what these things are, how they relate to each other, what it means to be intersex or not? It's because it is absolutely ridiculous that a court of law should be deciding what a man and a woman is. That makes no sense. They're not equipped to do it. There's no way to easily make this distinction for anybody in any way you look at it. And I think the fact that you have to have long winding conversations about what a man and a woman is and how that manifests and what that means to you personally, as a culture, as a society, in a medical sense, whatever, is proof that this is not something that a court of law should have jurisdiction over, right? So I think that's the point. Yeah, wait. Ernaldo, why are you getting annoyed? What are your thoughts on this? Maurer says we're getting this because Gingrich identified social issues as being a good wedge issue to divide the working class. Yes. Yeah, wait, I want to know. Okay, although we need to always go through a scientifically proven. There's no such thing as sex and gender being linked. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. There's. I mean, we try to link them, right, as our cultures, but there's no basis for that. Yeah. So this is why this is crazy. How can a court of law decide what a man and a woman is and then impose us? It's absolutely wild. So we saw the decision greeted with laughter and celebration by gender-critical campaigners and welcomed by ministers. Despite the court saying its decision would not disadvantage trans people, the Equality and Human Rights Commission tried to implement it in a way that tore up previous protections. The EHRC's initial advice stated that trans people should be excluded from any services or association for men or women, or gay and lesbian people that matches their gender, whatever the wishes of the organization running them. Okay. Interesting. So, what is the service or association? Is that common in the UK? I'm trying to think what the equivalent of that would be here in the United States. Like a women's org, or like, are there like women's only gyms? Is that a thing, or is that illegal? Oh no, the British communists! I'm terrified. Yeah. I'm reading your guys' chat. Predictably transphobic, I bet. Yeah, I bet. I just know because Carr is always talking about how the British Communist parties are very transphobic, which is unfortunate. Okay, so yeah, in the UK, can anybody tell me, is it common to have they say services or associations like for men or for women? Is that a thing? 'Cause I don't really know how common that is in the United States, but it could just not be common where I am. Okay, wait. So Ninja Can says there's a chain of women-only gyms called Curves where I grew up. You know what? I think I might remember something like that from my childhood. Now that you're mentioning that. Women's only organizations that are very trivial. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, this is what I was picturing too. Sports leagues, right? Sports. I always forget sports exist. Yeah. Okay, this makes sense. All right. So the regulator left no glimmer of inclusion for trans people, suggesting that even inclusive social groups such as the Women's Institute should be forced to exclude us, which it reluctantly later did. The AHRC faced widespread criticism for this approach, leading to changes to the draft guidance published last week. The new version contains the thinnest cushioning on trans equality. There's now a route for associations to carry on including us, meaning the aforementioned Women's Institute may be able to think again by operating as an association for multiple protected characteristics. The language of the document has also softened slightly into a more polite kind of cruelty. The rest, however, is just as bad. Unlike for associations, the guidance gives inclusive men's and women's service providers no clear route to remaining so and urges them to exclude trans people. Services in this case can mean anything from a men's toilet or hospital ward to some women's writing workshops. This is insane. Unless disapproved by Parliament, the guidance will usher in an era of enforced segregation for trans people, the policing of which will be outsourced to businesses, charities, and the NHS. This is a very Western way of thinking, as Ernalda is also saying. Oh yeah, screen. I'm so sorry, guys. Screen. I'm protecting you from having to read this yourselves. No, I got you. It is very, very, very Western. So instead, we are expected to use third spaces where they exist, but what happens when they don't? No one seems to have the answer. Certainly most pubs in dated buildings won't know what to do. What cost will this have? In a very literal sense, the official figures put the financial cost of reconfiguring facilities at more than £500 million? Not including the years of litigation this could unleash. In a human sense, the government is leading us into a dark reality with its eyes open wide. It can stop this at any time. The government's own equality impact assessment admits that the impact on all trans people will likely be wide-ranging and negative, and notes trans women could face disproportionate risk of violence and sexual assault if we are left with only access to men's services. The document also notes that women who are considered masculine may face greater scrutiny, of course, and warns of adverse impacts on disabled people, of course. It will be more than just the trans community who suffer under a system that encourages suspicion of people's gender based on physique or physical appearance, to quote the guidance itself. Trans people will be left with a choice between researching toilet provision every time we go out or living our lives as we always have, only now without the protection of the law. In reality, our worlds will get smaller, and so many trans people who enrich our communities will self-exclude, leaving everyone worse off. Away from toilets and changing rooms, our access to services of all kinds will become harder. This year, I found myself scared to go to the hospital with lung problems in case they decided to admit me to a men's ward, and I know I'm not alone. Trans people are anxious about leaving the house in a new world that makes us second-class citizens, told to accept being excluded, outed, put at risk. Far from Andy Burnham's preferred live and let live, not fixing this will define Labor's legacy on LGBTQ rights for a generation. Trans people protections, hard won and vital, clearly no longer work. We elect our politicians to be legislators, and they must fix the law itself. Not doing so is a political choice, and they cannot hide behind the courts and making it. As we go headfirst into becoming an outlier in the rights-respecting world, the picture is bleak, but it's not too late to change it. Okay, so it is bleak. It is fucking bleak. So we're Marxists, so let's talk about this from a Marxist perspective. We know that any sort of, I don't know, social issue we see, anytime people are discriminated against by a state apparatus, made as a scapegoat for political problems, we know that that's the culture war stuff we talk about, right? That is the capitalists, the owning power, the people with political power trying to pit us against each other. And we also know, though, that other working class people can happily carry this on. They can become some of the bravest warriors of this culture war bullshit, right? I doubt that the people cheering about this when it was read were the bourgeoisie, were the owning class. They were other workers who've literally been made to feel like their greatest enemy on the planet is a transgender person just sitting next to them somewhere. Right, and obviously, yeah, as Dump Truck Cavalry says, from Marx's perspective, gender is socially shaped. This is socially created. So, you know, fascists always move the lines of who the in-group and out-groups are, says Socialist Doc. Exactly. And it is absolutely, as the author of the piece, as she was talking about, like, there did seem to be a period of time where, at least in more lib spaces, people were paying lip service to the idea of being more trans-inclusive, more welcoming. You know, you did hear a lot more like, trans women are women, or, you know, this kind of thing. And it feels like as the general vibe of the Western world turns more fascist, it feels like the liberals are giving more into the turf kind of rhetoric, more of the protection of women kind of rhetoric that excludes trans women from those conversations. Oh, thank you. I didn't check that. Thank you, Haley. I'll fix that. I don't know why that did that. I must have glitched. Thank you. But yeah, so I don't know. I think this is just like very interesting in how we see liberals will try to now repackage and reposition being like a turf, basically, as being radical or left-wing in some capacity, which we obviously know people have been doing that, but I think we're going to probably see it get a lot more prominent. The best liberals seem to be able to do is protect the dolls' t-shirts, make sad eyes when I tell them, yeah, you're scared for your wife. Yeah, exactly. And it's not something they really understand. Blue MAGA is trying hard to say it's feminist to protect women from trans women. Exactly, even as we know that trans women carry the biggest burden of womanhood, if we want to talk about the actual effects of womanhood in a capitalist patriarchal society, right? What does that look like? Increased risk of sexual violence, right? Lower pay, disproportionately more likely to be unhoused. All of these things are things that trans women experience more than cisgender women, if we're looking materially at things. If we're looking materially at who is harmed, trans women are, what's that quote? That like trans women are the women of women, right? Have you guys heard this quote? I don't remember who says it. But it's true. It's like, you want a girl's girl, that's a trans woman, because what she's experiencing is what all women experience in a heightened sense, right? So, trans women are proven to be socially considered women by how conservative liberal society treats them. Yeah, that makes sense. And trans women of color have to deal with that all times 10. And I think this is also why, to be a Marxist and be like, well, these issues, they don't really affect me as a Marxist. It's a huge missed opportunity, first of all, because these are issues that face the working class, right? The same way that racism affects the working class, the same way homophobia affects the working class, transphobia affects the working class. Members of the working class are transgender. They are. And their lives are being used as, I don't even know, as a wedge to try to keep people divided so they're not turning on the power structure. So if you're not showing up to support workers in their struggle against capitalism, what are you even doing as a Marxist, right? What's even the point? And transgender issues, just like, any issue of gender discrimination, women's issues, or issues of race and ethnicity, these are all workers' issues because they are being exploited by capitalists with an end goal, and intentionally so. And trans women of color, the trans women, or trans women, exactly. So, I just think that I'm not sure what any Marxist has to gain by not recognizing these as issues facing the working class. Like, this is part of it. It is Marxist to look at these issues and care about them. And obviously we know a lot of our Marxist texts were written in the 1800s, right? They're not going to address these issues. But if we read Engels' work about like the family and capitalism, we obviously can extract a number of things from that work that applies to gay rights in the United States. It applies to gender expression in the United States, right? Malware says, it's quite funny watching the UPS drivers recognize their strongest organizers were the trans people that eventually won them their contract a few years ago. Yeah, these are vulnerable workers. These are the most vulnerable workers. It's something I think is interesting too is like I've probably talked about this before, but I've had such a really positive experience volunteering for the Vote Socialist campaign because it does give you the opportunity to talk about socialism and communism to average everyday people who maybe not have previously considered it. But one of the most rewarding things is getting to talk to queer people, getting to talk to trans people, and talk to them about what their liberation materially would look like, right? And they'll ask the candidates, like, what's your program to help trans people? Like, we're experiencing all this fucked up shit right now. Like, what's your program to help us? And to be able to turn around and say, we actually have a plan to materially help like the trans community, and it is free housing, free healthcare, including gender affirming care, to be able to live a life of dignity, to be able to say that you are always entitled to employment and work and shelter no matter what, to be able to say like you don't have to take bullshit from your fucked up weird boss because you're worried you're never going to find another job again if you get fired. Like to have that security and safety and realize that like liberation looks like material assistance and material security that all people are entitled to, and how that translates into you being able to live a life of dignity. That is rewarding because capitalism can't offer you that material assistance, right? Yeah. And that felt good to be able to talk to people about that. And I think like a lot of queer people maybe hadn't considered that. What would liberation materially look like if they weren't already Marxists, right? What would it mean? What would it look like to experience liberation as a trans person living in the United States? And it would be to have just your gender expression not be policed, to have your pronouns not be policed, to be able to say if you've got a weird boss who's a bigot, it doesn't actually affect your life. You could just be like, fuck off, I'm gonna go get another job then. I don't like you. I don't want to be around you, right? To know that walking away from a job where you're being mistreated doesn't mean you lose access to your house. To know that whatever healthcare you need access to, gender affirming or otherwise, you have access to. Like, I think a lot of people under capitalism don't consider that liberation actually is material, that these kinds of things actually can provide liberation that we're looking for. Which, I think is very moving to be able to say liberation looks the same for all of us. It's security and safety and dignity. And it's it. And how that manifests for all of us might be a little different. But at the end of the day, it's the same basic things. So when we look at this, okay, so going back to this weird story, we're talking about segregation and like what that looks like for trans people, right? Not being able to use a bathroom out in public is absolutely fucking insane, obviously. But the things too, like all of these services, businesses, charities, like these are material things. Like these aren't ideological. These are things that will manifest in your day-to-day life in very, very real ways. Use third spaces where they exist, but what happens when they don't, right? Because there's no third spaces available. And another thing we think about too is like when we think about Cuba, and I think about going to that community center and there's just like a woman with schizophrenia there. Like, and she's just like, oh yeah, I get all this stuff because I have schizophrenia, whatever. She's talking about it very openly with a group of strangers. She's not ashamed to be schizophrenic. She's just talking about that and how it shapes her experiences, etc. And you're like, oh, that's a third space that exists for this woman because of her healthcare situation. Now, those are third spaces, obviously, that exist specifically for people usually with a healthcare consideration. But the idea that in communism, we can just create third spaces when they don't exist, and we need them for any reason. Like, just the idea of not having access to public toilets in general is fucking insane. It's insane you even have to go into a business to be able to use a toilet, right? These kinds of things that we don't even have access to. I think these are interesting considerations for, liberation as well. I don't know. Very, very fascinating. Okay, so this is very... we lost somebody. We lost a weirdo. Is he still here? Or did he get banned? Banned! He was saying he was doing a Gavin Newsom on sports. Was that what that person was doing? I assume it was a man, but it could have been anyway. Good job, Kubashi. Banhammer, yes. Yeah, if your opinion on trans people is the same as Gavin Newsom's, do some thinking. Do some thinking. Yeah. I think that the segregation thing is pretty fascinating. If you're not including an intersectional analysis with class, I wouldn't regard that as Marxist at all. The backlash you see from left types is usually reaction, liberal expression of identity. I mean, yeah, but that's the thing too. That's like when we bring it in, and it's like, it is a Marxist issue. It is because it's a working class issue. It's an issue that faces and affects the working class and the material conditions of the working class. And that liberation is not going to come from capitalism, and we know that. We know that, right? Yeah. But I think also it's just, you really see how it's manufactured and to what end, right? The ruling class is manufacturing this as an issue when it's not actually an issue. It doesn't need to be an issue. And I think about this now with gay people and conservatives. Oh, wait, hold on. Zay's trying to climb on my computer. Hold on. So when I was growing up, gay rights were kind of treated similarly by power structures. Gay marriage was like the big thing that was being used. And now when you talk to conservatives, because we've made more space to be gay in society, it's a little bit more socially accepting, not 100%, but a lot of them are like, well, I actually don't care that much about gay people. Like, my kid's gay, my niece is gay, whatever. They don't actually care. And I think that's the same thing too that we'll probably end up seeing with trans rights. Like, right now, it's a highly politicized issue by the ruling class, right? Because they get you fighting about trans rights instead of fighting with them about, your wages being too low and your rent being too high or whatever. But I'm willing to bet this isn't a thing that people actually care about. A lot of them. Some people are filled with hate, whatever, in their hearts and souls. They're dark and twisted. But most average working class people, they don't actually care about this as much as they're being told they do. Or that they should, right? And it's probably also one of those things where once you make it more comfortable for people to come out and say, like, oh yeah, like, I am gay, like we did. It's not perfect, but it's a little better. Or I am transgender. You're going to see more of it. And then people are going to be like, oh yeah, my buddy's a trans woman. So that's totally fine. I fuck with her. That's okay. Like, I don't care. And you'll start to see people you wouldn't expect to get on board with that, because this isn't an issue that actually does materially affect the working class. Having a transgender neighbor doesn't actually harm you in any way. We're just being told that it might, right? So, yeah, Mallard says, again, why are we talking about trans people? Your boss has functionally enslaved you. Yeah, that's exactly it. Your conservative mom cared until you pointed out the home bathroom is not gendered. Exactly. They're being told to care about this. We have to manufacture that people actually care about this. This is not an issue that actually affects people's lives. No, please stop doing that. Please stop doing that. Yeah. The majority of people from polling do not care. Exactly. It's not something they ruminate on day after day. And there are people who are very bigoted and biased. They do exist, but they are a minority of people. Exactly. So the fact that politicians are really harping on this to make it a huge issue. It's like, well, think about what's the goal in that? What's the distraction in that? Why? And they've always done this. This has always been how social issues have been used, right? It's a distraction. It's a tool to divide attention. Very, very disturbing. It's disturbing, but it's not new. And it's like we still deal with the ramifications of this in society. And this is why, I know a lot of people do like identifying as like a Marxist feminist. That's fine. To me, like, the main crux I take from all of this is no liberation can happen under capitalism. Capitalism is not capable of providing us any liberation, because at the end of the day, the material things that any marginalized group needs for liberation, capitalism won't provide anybody. Capitalism won't provide the most privileged socially man in society here in the United States. Capitalism isn't providing a white man, a white straight cisgender man with free housing and healthcare. So what hope do the most marginalized among us have of achieving those things under capitalism? Yes, self-determination for all oppressed people includes trans people as well, as we of course says. Yes. Capitalism benefits and profits from bigotry. True. Yeah, capitalism will not liberate us. It's not going to liberate anybody whatsoever. So I think that just the thing for us to remember when we talk, just because there are so many, especially internationally, Marxist-Leninists who have regressive and bad takes on queerness, on transness, on anything like this. I think the thing that I've most effectively been able to communicate to people is that these are issues that affect the working class. So why are you alienating the working class by coming right out of the gate and saying you don't fuck with them and you won't defend them and you won't stand up for them when the capitalist owning class is attempting to leverage their identity to trick people into supporting their own oppression further, right? Well, yeah, that's not comrade behavior. Why can't you see through that and understand that's what's happening? I think that's the biggest takeaway I get from this. That is something with the ACP as well. They're the ones that I talk to about this the most. When I'm like, 10% of the working class is gay, why the fuck are you alienating 10% of the working class and you expect me to take you seriously as a party that represents working class interests? I can't, right? I can't take that seriously. And okay, sure, maybe, what percent of the US population is currently not cisgender? Where I live, where they are. I'm looking it up. It's 1%. That's what I thought. So it's 1%. Okay. That's massive. 1 in 100 people. You're telling them you're not gonna care about their material liberation from capitalism? That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Oh, our ACP just closeted. Does Grindr crash in towns when they have their meetings? Like it says with the GOP, honestly, I don't. I know it's problematic to go down that line of thinking that everybody who's homophobic and transphobic is secretly just hating themselves. I understand why that's problematic to go into that. But I will say their obsession is very weird. It's a very weird obsession. It's like, why do you care so much about what's in strangers' pants? Like, that's fucking weird. That is weird. It doesn't even occur to me. It's very interesting. Trans men are ignored while trans women are getting the main focus from what you've observed. There are some people who've actually had some interesting considerations. I definitely do know trans men who've experienced a lot of oppression. But, there have been people who have talked about this, about how, just like with homophobia, so much of homophobia is rooted in like hatred of the woman and control of the woman, that it's like not acceptable to present yourself in a feminine way in our society in any capacity. So that's why trans women carry the brunt of the public attention on transgender issues. I've seen people talk about this. I haven't thought about it enough to have a definitive opinion myself either way, but I do think it's an interesting consideration. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Manticore says trans mask person, you have experienced obscene levels of transphobia growing with smaller town. Yeah. I mean, again, I know a lot of trans men, and actually, yeah, just trans mask generally, like trans mask MBs who've experienced a lot of it for sure. So yeah, I'm not sure how committed I am to that idea, but I have seen it discussed, and I think it's interesting. No, you need to stop trying to eat the curtain. Why does she do this to us? I know. Okay. Well, that was bleak and depressing, but important for us to remember. These issues are being used to try to divide us from each other. No problem you have in society as a working class person is because your neighbor is transgender. It's absolutely not a thing. And we got to find a way to communicate that to people in a way that they really get it. Where it's like, why? Yeah, and like Mal was saying, it's like, why the fuck do you care about this? Why is this an issue? No, she's not just trying to open it. I wish she was just trying to open it, and that's why I tried to trick her. By acting like this is what you wanted, but she's getting smarter and she's like, that's not what I wanted. I want to claw at it and destroy it with my claws. Yeah, try not to say it's worse or better for trans women or men, just different. I think that's probably the better takeaway. It is different. Zay, hey, come here. No, yeah, your claw's stuck. Great, look what you did. No, pss, 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 no. You know what? Yeah, I'm also thinking about a lot of experiences I've seen people have. I know. I think she's like 6 or 7. So we'll do a little Zay story time and then we'll get into the map. But I do just want to like put a neat little wrap up on this. Like, just really the point to reiterate to the working class again is that this is not a real issue. This is not a real problem. Nothing in your life is materially impacted in any way by transgender people existing. So ask yourself, Why are rich people so desperate to convince you it is an issue for you? Why? Why are they so desperate for this? A fair share of Marxist-Leninists in your country are transphobic as well. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, no trans person ever called Big Gotco lower value human capital. Exactly. So, yeah, I think this is like a messaging thing we really have to figure out the most effective way to make people get it, right? Because we understand it. So what's like a quick and easy way that we can make people like get this? Like, this is a nothing burger of an issue. Why are the rich trying to distract you with this and make you think that this is like the crux of all oppression you face in society is a trans person existing 6 blocks away from you or something? How do we do that? How do we do that to people? If the ACP gains more traction, how do we work together against imperialism? I mean, that's a really good question as well. They do have very, very regressive views socially. Yeah, the only 1% ruining your life is the billionaire class. What about the trans women weapon manufacturer? Her specifically. She's the issue. Captain Colonizer 1776 says win ice. It's not going to work. We're not triggered like that. We're not liberals. You stumbled into a group of communists. We know Nazis exist. That's like our whole thing. That's not surprising to us that you're a Nazi. We actually spend all day trying to convince liberals they're Nazis. They don't believe us. So thank you for just saying it outright. Thank you for just owning your truth. Just coming in and being like, I like it. You know, that's refreshing to us, honestly. At least you know who you are. Yeah. Anyhow. So, yeah, Burger Right goes they finally they wouldn't even say it. They were like, I choose not to answer that question. Like, Jesus. You know what you're going to talk about on your stream at least? Okay, good. So everybody can go continue the conversation on Arnalda's stream. That will be good. Yeah. Yeah, we gotta figure out a way, though, to easily communicate this to people. We gotta figure out our messaging. We gotta lock in on our messaging. We got to lock in on the messaging on this. Why do rich people want you to hate your transgender neighbor so much? That's weird. Like, how do you say this in a way that it really clicks with people and they feel stupid? Yes. How do we do this? How do we do this? No lumpen pro person ever called you low value human capital. Yeah, it's weird. It is weird. It's a weird thing to care about. It's fucking weird. It's strange. I don't know. I think it's fucking weird. I think people are fucking weirdos, man. People are fucking weirdos. Strange. You think it's better to make them angry at the person trying to make them prioritize that? I think so too. It's like, why do these rich people want you to care about this? Why does Elon Musk, the world's first fucking trillionaire or whatever, want you to think your enemy's not Elon Musk, but it's like a random lady down the street from you who doesn't have any political power because she wants to change the little M on her passport to an F. Like, what? That's crazy work. That's crazy that worked on people, honestly. Right? Very interesting. So... Yeah. He has a trans daughter who hates him. Okay. All right. Let's get into map, everybody, with that in mind. Oh, wait. Here you go, Malrish. Do you know they're only talking about this shit because they don't want you thinking about the Epstein files or something? Keep it connected to current events. Yeah, literally Elon, I think, is just... Like, here's the thing I learned from talking to the guys in the ACP, unfortunately. Getting embarrassed on the internet is, like, these men's worst nightmare. And it you know, I'm sure some women have this experience. It seems like a very, like, dude-coded thing. I don't know why. So getting embarrassed by somebody feminine on the internet is ultra their worst nightmare. So I do think a lot of it has to do with Elon Musk also being upset that his daughter is better liked and funnier than him online, which is interesting. Stolen do we talk about only trans issues? We do a different issue in the news every day. So today we're talking about specifically the UK passing anti-trans legislation. So today we are hyper-focused on that one topic. Yeah. So if you don't like that topic, tomorrow you can come and we'll talk about something different. So that's how it goes. So that's today's topic. Yeah. Oh, Captain Colonizer's still here? Did you get triggered? How old are you? Because here's the thing. Captain Colonizer, did you get triggered? He's got to be Gen X. He might be my age. How old are you, Captain Colonizer? Yeah, see, when Israel, blah, blah. Yeah, this isn't shocking to us. We know. We know. Duh. Are the liberals obsessed with the Epstein files too? Okay, so that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, they're a boring troll. They're a really boring troll. But they've got to be old because it's kind of like outdated trolling. Like it's not hip trolling. So I'm guessing they've got to be like 55 years old. You know? Yeah. They're like they were an old troll. Trump 2020 aliens, like so embarrassing. That's what I mean. It's embarrassing. At a certain point, you get secondhand embarrassment for them. Or like 12. Could be 12, actually. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Let's get into the map, everybody. Let's get into the map. Okay, let me take a look if we've done. Hey, Zay, please don't. Please. Hey. Psst, psst. Do you think she'll attack me? Get your little nail out of there. It's all caught in there now. Now look. Now it's all hooked in there. No, okay. Hey, hi, girly pop. Okay, I gotta pet her so she doesn't attack me. Yeah. She lets me pet her a lot more now. We have a bond. I don't know if you guys have like been keeping up with my development and this relationship with Zay. Was it Mauritania you asked about? No. She wants to kill me with an allergy. No, it's been really bad. Do you hear my throat? It's like constant perpetual itch now. I got like some eye infection thing over the weekend. It's pretty bad. Yes, she gets attention when she touches the car. Oh my, okay, where? Nobody look at me while I try to find it on a map. That's embarrassing. Nobody look at me. I'm looking. Nobody look at my looking face. Okay, update. I apparently have no idea where that country is. I thought I knew, but I just keep thinking Mauritania. And it's not Mauritania. To the right of Jamaica. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's too small to actually show up on the map. I think that's why. Some of the smaller ones aren't on this map. Unfortunately. Look. I keep thinking Mauritania. It's Z-E-Y, I think. Outdated trolling. I know, it's like not hip trolling. It's like loser troll. I also kept doing the Mauritania. I know, yeah, they're not on here. The map app, politically, what's considered on the map app is also an issue. Oh my god, there's cat hair everywhere. I'm gonna die. Oh, it is by Africa. What? Where? I don't see it. I keep thinking Mauritania. I don't know. It's not on this map, though. I don't think either way. We haven't had a good troll in a long time. I know, Burger Reich was a more appealing adversary. The Burger Reich is kind of fun for me to mess with. Big Gakko gets it. You know, I appreciate a troll. Okay, it's on the hyper-imperialism doc. Voted yes on Gaza ceasefire and yes on Russia withdrawal. It was a colony of Netherlands. Okay. Interesting. This is very interesting. Okay. Well, whatever the case, we're on Malawi right now. We still have to do... Is that it? That's it. No, because we have these ones. Is it Lesotho, somebody said? Lesotho? Yes. I'll post it. Weekly. You're right. Well, let's do... Oh, it's to the right of Madagascar. Is it this? Is it this? This thing? Is that it? Is it this? Okay. We can do that. We can do that another day if we want. Let's fill in this though. It's upsetting me with its unfilled in nature. It yearns to be filled in. It yearns to be filled in over here. So let's do this for today. Kobashi keeps unbanning your bands. Band fight. North of Madagascar. Oh, this. We have all these tiny little islands. There's so many islands in the world. Okay, Malawi. Let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's get into it, chat. Let's go. Can you guys tell I'm a little depressed about the news today? Can you tell? It threw me off. It's just so wild. Why are these people like this? You missed the whole stream. We were just talking about the UK being fucking weird to trans people. And then we were kind of talking about how there are some communists who are like, this isn't a working class issue. And it's like, what? This is definitely a working class issue. It's parallel with the coast of Kenya. It's not on the map. It does not exist on this map. The limit does not exist. Eggs. Interesting. Okay. You called Venezuela an island in January. I also called Venezuela an island because I was so used to talking about fucking Cuba. And everyone was like, it's not Cuba, babes. And I was like, holy shit. I just instinctively am talking about it like it's Cuba. And I did the same thing. Don't worry. Yeah. Working a blue collar job. Sorry, you're not working class anymore. You're not a transgender person, apparently. It's so wild. Oh, really? It is. Oh, okay. You just, okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Let's do, all right. Yeah, let's do Malawi. All right, let's get into it. Yes, I spelled it correctly, everybody. Okay, so this was a UK colony we've got going on until 1964. They are not on a U.S. sanctions list. They have never had a U.S. military intervention. They have 0 U.S. bases. They voted yes on the Gaza ceasefire and yes on the Russia withdrawal. Interesting position. That's all we got on them. They are also not a member of the not official NATO Friendship League. So let's take a look at what's going on here. So there is spending going on there currently. This whole area, like, I want to like compare that map. Sorry, cut. I didn't have it. Boo, boo, boo. Okay. So it's like, I wish we could compare these two maps actually. Because you can really see what we've been up to. Like, you can see our spending is the most on this map on the right. And the areas that are most likely to be aligned with the empire. And be switched here. I think that's pretty fascinating. The DRC were obviously spending a lot of money. This is pretty fascinating, the correlation. It's not a perfect correlation, but it is interesting. Okay. So we're spending money in Malawi. We want things to happen here. We've spent not a lot though, $119,000. Okay. And it's on strengthening media professionalism. We want to control the narrative. Citizens against corruption. Okay. So what's going on? They want to do some sort of trade deal with Russia is my guess. My guess is they want to trade with Russia. Malawian woman tricked into working at Russian drone facility. That thing again. This is a really interesting story. I'm kind of surprised that more liberals didn't run with this, that Russia was tricking people in Africa into working in drone facilities and getting recruited into the military. We've seen a few stories like this come out about Africa and Russia, but they never really hit. I'm kind of surprised liberals didn't take that and run with that. Yeah, media professionalism is very funny. Is Russia courting Malawi support on Ukraine? I knew it was going to be something. It's VOA. We got Voice of America. For those of you who don't know, this is just stated American propaganda network here. Reporting that Russia is courting Malawi support. So this would make sense to me because it seems like they're pretty pro-US, US neutral-ish. Never been a problem for the United States before, but now we want to spend $120,000 there trying to do propaganda campaigns. It makes sense that they would be starting to develop something with Russia that we feel like we need to fight back against, right? So Russia's ambassador to Malawi has said he hopes African leaders will call for an end to the international sanctions against Moscow. At an upcoming Russia-Africa summit. Russia made a donation of 20,000 tons of fertilizer to Malawi, and analyst says Russia is likely trying to win diplomatic support for its war in Ukraine. Okay. The donation amounts to 3% of Malawi's annual national fertilizer requirement of 600,000 tons. That's kind of a lot. The Minister of Agriculture there said the fertilizer is a major boost for the country. So, have they sanctioned Russia? So they're doing the UN sanctions because they're members of the UN. So they're not doing additional sanctions. Okay, so they implement UN sanctions. So there's UN sanctions against Russia, I'm guessing. Right. Okay, also ghost Russian ships were using a Malawi flag to evade Ukraine war sanctions. What? Why is this kind of funny? A fraudulent registry operated under the name Malawi Maritime Administration issued illegitimate registration documents to dozens of ocean-going vessels? Registrant on who.is is listed as spaceship.com. It's registered in Reykjavik, Iceland. Okay. Cool. So maybe Russia and Malawi are up to some pirate shit together. Who knows? But also maybe Malawi didn't know. Pretty good. They don't have an ocean. So cool. I love it. Alright, so Russia's courting them, basically. Putin invited their officials to attend the Russia-Africa summit. Cool. Malawi has a mixed position, according to Fury. Who is this guy, Fury? Who is he? Fury. Oh, a political analyst, George Fury. Okay, got it. So he says that they have a mixed position. I think it's important for Malawi to decide whether for Russia or for Ukraine, because now Malawi shows it has not decided which team it supports. Oh, so they're getting courted by Ukraine as well, it says up here. In August 2022, the president had a phone conversation with Zelensky and assured him of Malawi's support as Ukraine continued to defend itself from Russia's attack. Okay. Oh my god, no. That's so mean about the Susie Kemp emoji. She does not look like Kamala. You take it back. You take it back. So, okay. So Malawi's on the fence. So they're kind of cucked brat core, right? They're kind of cucked brat core. Russia's invasion of Ukraine threatens food security in Malawi. This is 2022. Okay. That's just from supply chain issues. See what they got going on with North Korea there. Nothing specific. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh. Well, over a week ago, this is in February 2015, President Peter Mutharika received a letter of credence from North Korea's ambassador to Malawi. The commentator suggested it's wrong for Malawi to have relations with North Korea. Huh, okay. Let's see what's going on with them in the United States. I don't know, chat. I don't know. We were giving them stuff from USAID. Travel list ban. This is actually a really good resource as well. Visas restricted. Okay. Huh. I'm leaning towards cucked brat, honestly. I'm so sleepy today, chat. The U.S. government, through USAID, has been supporting Malawi with over $350 million annually across sectors. Okay, this is why I'm thinking cucked brat. All right, here's my pitch, everybody. So the USA has been giving them a lot of aid, and they are in talks. They have been in talks with Ukraine, but they're not really willing to fully commit to Ukraine, and they're accepting gifts from Russia. Like, they're like, we could be wooed, not cooed, we could be wooed. So I kind of feel like they're cucked brat because of that. What do you guys think? What are your guys' thoughts on this? This is my impression. Does anybody have strong feelings that would oppose that for them? A fence sitter. They're kind of a fence sitter. That's kind of what cucked brat is to me. They're fence sitters. Israel. Let's look at their Israel relationship. That's a good question here. They've had a history of diplomatic relations with the DPRK, but oh, they might be the first African country to open an embassy in Jerusalem. I don't think they're divided at all. Yeah. So I think they are fully cucked, but they're like, Russia, if the price is right, we could be convinced. That is my take on this. So what Russia has been doing at this point, here's the article from Jewish Report. This is from 2020. It is from 2020, but still, it's not like they were doing really nice things to Palestine in 2020. Come on. That's crazy. Israeli relations. Huh. Oh, why does Malawi support Israel so strongly? Yeah. How much connections with Russia makes it brat status? Well, I think it's because they will not fully commit to backing Ukraine, and Russia is giving them 3% of their total fertilizer yield. And Russia is currently like, you should vote to drop the sanctions against us in the UN, and Malawi's like, maybe we will, I don't know. Some of that sweet, sweet fertilizer might help convince us more, Russia. You know? So this is what I think. But they did vote against Russia. They voted, for a withdrawal. But that's because they're cucked. But I think the fertilizer's recent. That's now. That's right now Russia's and they're like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I think there's evidence for cucked status. China. Good question. I mean, this article, though. Why does Malawi support Israel so strongly? 2024. Through and through, Israel supported Malawi. There's no way we can change our stand today. Okay, hold on. How Chinese state companies quietly took over millions of tons of Malawi's critical mineral. They're victims. If you ask Finance Uncovered, Malawi are victims of China. And they're evil, evil state companies. Chinese firms blindsided their government over strategic mine ownership. China aided road upgrade project handed over to... Oh, that one doesn't sound as scary as I thought it was because it's from Global Times. Okay. Chinese mines openly break Malawian laws. They cinched $12 billion mining infrastructure investments from China. Okay. All right. So this is the part I think is important here. So China is doing a $12 billion infrastructure and mining program with them. It's definitely bratty, right? It's 2025. So in the past year, this is July, less than a year, they've been engaging in some brat-like behavior. I think the emergence of the multipolar world is suddenly making these countries be like, how advantageous is my relationship with the United States? I could cozy up with this Russia-China brigade over here, and shit might be better for me. So I think it's making some places rethink themselves, right? So, I feel like this is evidence of brat. All right? Time to stamp them bratty. I think we stamped them bratty. It is 12:01. I think we are officially stamping them brat. They are brat. They're having brat summer. They're having brat year. Really, it's a whole brat year for them. Boop. Look at that. Look at that. We only have 2 more places here in continental Africa. We're so close. China and Fresno are allies. We're great friends. China comes to Fresno and is like, there's so much we can learn from Fresno about your vast technological and agricultural superiority, your Fresno way of life. They love us. They love us. So we help them, actually. You've heard of BRICS? We have that, but for China. Fresno goes to China and helps them build infrastructure. Yeah, we're just out there winning. So, they look to us for guidance. Cooked bread it is. Okay, everybody. Well, with that, I'm going to send you off to Larry for the day. I'll save this. Somebody had a question about I haven't been in the Discord since yesterday, but I'll go in and I'll drop the map and maybe I'll take a look if any more mods want art done. Sorry I was off today, everybody. I was in a weird mood. I didn't get much sleep. Had some emergencies happen last night. Life is weird. Life is a weird one. The vibes were off today. Someone told you can't call yourself a punk and be a communist. This is true. No, being a communist is the most punk rock thing you can do. They just don't know. They just don't know. They have the same domestic policy as Ronald Reagan and the same foreign policy as Donald Trump, these people, I'm telling you. They're like, deregulate everything. Haha, China's the devil. And then they wonder why we're like, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Okay, I'm drinking water. I'm doing it. I think they're doing okay. Thank you, though. Thank you. Okay, I'm sending you guys all on a raid. Tomorrow, I'm definitely putting on makeup and looking hot. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna get back on my game chat. I'm gonna do it. I gotta do some sort of more point structure. Like, I'll give myself a haircut if you spend like 40,000 or something. And tomorrow's Theory Thursday. Get excited. Start thinking about the weird things you've seen leftcoms say that you're like, wait a minute, maybe we should talk about that. You can pay your rent to my properties with your points. Okay. Woo. I did it wrong. I didn't put the fucking underscore in. There we go. There we go. You're 103K. You can get 2 haircuts out of me. I'll figure it out. I'll work on some stuff. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a good Larry stream. I'll miss you.